everybody, it's Richard here again and welcome to another video. This time I'm going to take a look at Kirsty MacColl. Now, I've always loved Kirsty MacColl's singles, always loved them, and I liked her albums, but I always thought they were never all that special. However, over the past 2 weeks I have been playing nothing but Kirsty MacColl albums and they are brilliant. Now, she didn't make my top 100 artists when I did it a few months ago. If I was doing it again now, she would certainly be in there and possibly even in the top 50. So Kirsty MacColl was born in 1959 and she was the daughter of Jane Newlove and Ewan MacColl. Now, Jane Newlove was a dancer and Ewan MacColl was an English folk singer who was quite famous for writing songs like Dirty Old Town and The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face, which was a huge hit for Roberta Flack. Now, Kirsty herself, her first band that she was in was the Drug Addicts, and she was a backing vocalist, and they didn't have a label and they were looking for a label. They tried to get signed by Stiff, but Stiff wouldn't have them, but they did say to Kirsty that if you have songs, we will sign you. She said she did have songs, so they signed her. I don't know if she actually did have any at the time or she had to quickly write some. But the first single she released for Stiff was 1979 and it's They Don't Know, and this was a radio hit. However, it did not become a chart success because there was a distribution strike in 1979 and the song just did not get into the shops. So it's really unfortunate because it's an absolute brilliant debut single. This came out, as I say, in '79. The next time we saw Kirsty was in 1980 on Top of the Pops as a backing vocalist for Jonah Louie. And in that there performance he was singing You'll Always Find Me in the Kitchen at Parties. Now, Kirsty does not sing on this. She actually sang with him live around that time, but she doesn't feature actually on this recording. Then in 1981 she was signed to Polydor, and the first single she released for Polydor was a cover of the Gough and Keane song Keep Your Hands Off My Baby, which is a really great early 60s sort of girl group type song, and her voice is really fantastic. One thing I will say about Kirsty is everyone says she's got the voice of an angel, and because of that she was in high demand as a backing vocalist, and also part of this video will show what other work she did other than her own solo work. But anyway, in 1981 she had her first hit with her own song. There's a guy who works down the chip shop, swears he's Elvis. What a title. And this is like a rock and roll number. It's quite it's in the vein of Rockpile as well, and actually Billy Bremner of Rockpile features on her Top of the Pops performance. This got in the top 20, and her first album was then released, and it's Desperate Character, and it didn't chart. Her albums haven't done well at all, but this is, I've always said this is my favourite. It probably still is because I like the innocence of this album. Clock Goes Round is a real great Rockpile type number. Teenager in Love is like a 50s type song, as is He Thinks I Still Care. It's a really strong album, and there's even a country version of There's a Guy Works Down the Chip Shop, Swears He's Elvis on this as well. But a second single was taken from the album, and it is See That Girl, which is another excellent song, but unfortunately failed to make a dent in the charts. 1981 also saw the release of a standalone single, her brilliant version of Brian Wilson's You Still Believe in Me, the Pet Sounds song. Absolutely brilliant, and there's a lovely Christmassy touch to this as well. It's a brilliant song. It's a pity it was never a hit. She was working away on her second Polydor album and they dropped her, and I think it knocked the stuffing out of her a bit. And then she signed with Stiff again, and between 1983 and 1986 she released 3 cracking singles. The first one is Terry from 1983, great video for that as well. Didn't do too well in the charts. Second one, however, did. And this is in New England, and this got top 10, and this is a cover of the Billy Bragg song, and this is absolutely magnificent. But my favourite of the three Stiff singles is He's on the Beach from 1985, and it's in the same sort of vein as In New England, but I think it's a better song. I really love it, and it's pure Kirsty MacColl, put it that way. So she didn't release any more until 1989, and that's where we'll stop for the moment, and we'll start looking at some of her collaborations. And the first collaboration she did was in 1983, and it's with Matchbox, and it's a song, the rock and roll song I Want Out, which is really good. It's very Buddy Holly-esque with the strummed acoustic guitars. Matchbox were like a rock and roll revivalist band, and they're very good as well, of a few of their albums. So that was the first one. And then she had chart success, well, Tracy Ullman had chart success in 1983 with her song They Don't Know, Kirsty's first single. The baby that you hear on this is actually lifted from Kirsty's debut recording herself, because Tracy Ullman couldn't do it apparently, so they lifted it straight from the Kirsty single version. Tracy Ullman then released her first album here, You Broke My Heart in 17 Places, and this features They Don't Know, but it also features the title track, which was written by Kirsty MacColl. And then Tracy Ullman released Terry in 1984, which has got exactly the same backing track as Kirsty's own version, and it featured on Tracy's second album, You Caught Me Out, which features You Caught Me Out, which was supposed to have been her Kirsty's second single, but it was never released. Those are two very, very strong albums actually. Tracy Ullman you probably know as a comedian. She turned pop singer for 2 years in the 1980s. Okay, where are we at? So in 1984, Sparkle in the Rain, she provided backing vocals on Speed Your Love to Me and Street Hassle. It was on this recording session that she met Steve Lillywhite, who she was to marry. And then in 1985 she worked with Frida from ABBA on her second English album called Shine, and she actually co-wrote 3 songs for this: One Little Lie, The Face and Chemistry Tonight. And then in 1986 she worked with the Rolling Stones, and she provided backing vocals on the song, this single here, One Hit to the Body. And also in 1986 she provides backing vocals on the Smiths' Ask single, as well as the B-side of this 12-inch Golden Lights, the old Twinkle song. And then in 1987 she had something to do with this, and this is U2's Joshua Tree. No, she didn't sing on it, but what Kirsty MacColl actually did on this album, she was the person that sequenced the album. They were struggling and to put the songs in order, and Kirsty wrote them all down and said this is the order. And Bono was amazed. He says, how did you do that? How did you sequence it that way? And she simply says, well, I put my favourite song first, my second favourite song second, my third favourite song third, the whole way down, and that's how the Joshua Tree was sequenced. In 1987 she collaborated with, and this is the one she's most famous for, the Pogues, with in the song Fairy Tale of New York, and this is played at Christmas every year. I'm not a huge fan of this song. I think it's okay, but it's not one of my favourite Christmas songs, but it's great to see the success she gets and see her in the charts every Christmas, and it'll be no exception this year as well. Also in 1988 she provided backing vocals on Talking Heads' Naked album. She sings on the song Nothing But Flowers. And also in 1988 she sang backing vocals on Robert Plant's Now and Zen album. She sang on 3 songs, The Way I Feel, Why, a white, clean and neat and tall, cool one. I don't have the album and I haven't heard the songs. And in 1989, where are we at? She provides backing vocals for Morrissey's Interesting Drug. So she worked with Morrissey solo as well as with the Smiths. And then in 1989 still, she provided backing vocals for the Happy Mondays on the song Hallelujah, which I played on YouTube, and you can see her on Top of the Pops performing it, and I don't like it, it's dreadful. But in 1991 she sang with Billy Bragg on the song Sexuality, which is a really good song, although I don't like Billy Bragg's voice. But the highlight of that is Kirsty sporting an Arsenal Football Club strip, which is great to see. Go girl. So also in 1982 then she provided vocals for the Wonder Stuff's Welcome to the Cheap Seats, which is a great song as well. So if we get back to Kirsty's solo material, in 1989 she released her second album, Kite, and this is critically acclaimed, and this is an absolutely brilliant album. I appreciate this album more than I ever did. It's got 4 brilliant singles off it. The first one is The Driving Free World. The second one is a gorgeous cover of the Kinks' Days, Ray Davies song, and this actually took her into the top 20. The third one is Innocence, which is like a jingly jangly song co-written with Pete Glenister. And the fourth one is the country tinged Don't Come the Cowboy with Me, Sonny Jim. What a title. I love that title, Don't Come the Cowboy with Me, Sonny Jim. But the album itself is really, really strong, and there's some really great songs on it, like No Victims, Mother's Ruin, Dancing in Limbo, 15 Minutes. Really good album, and if you buy the CD you get her version of the Smiths. You just haven't earned it yet, baby. She had now signed with Virgin, I forgot to say that, and her second album with Virgin came out in 1991, and that is Electric Landlady. I always get it confused. It's a play on Electric Ladyland, and I think it was Johnny Marr that came out with that title, which is great. And this, I think, is a very strong album. It doesn't get the same critical acclaim as Kite, but there was 3 magnificent singles came off that, and they were the very baggy Walking Down Madison, co-written with Johnny Marr, who also played on the Kite album as well. And this is one of my favourite Kirsty MacColl singles. The Latin American flavoured My Affair, which is magnificent, and the very Kirsty MacColl-esque, in other words, catchy little song, All I Ever Wanted. But the album itself is very, very strong. It's got songs like Children of the Revolution, not the T-Rex song. Halloween's great, He Never Mentioned Love is great. Maybe It's Imaginary, it's only 2 minutes long, but it's a very strong album. Then in 1993 she releases, look at the CDs here, she releases her next album. She was dropped by Virgin and she released this album, Titanic Days, on the ZTT label, and this is another beautiful album. It didn't get any coverage at all, there was no promotion, it was a 1 album deal and it sank without trace. But there was 1 single released off that, and that was the brilliant Angel. Now this is a remix version of the album track, and the remix version is much better. But this here contains songs like Titanic Days is one of my all-time favourite Kirsty MacColl songs, as is Soho Square. Big Boy on a Saturday Night is a really strong album. Unfortunately she was splitting up with her husband at the time, Steve Lillywhite, so this is quite a personal album. Then she has her first big hit album, and it is a greatest hits, and it is galore, and this has all her singles. Well, it doesn't have You Still Believe in Me or Keep Your Hands Off My Baby, but it's got quite a few from They Don't Know right up to 2 new songs that were featured on the album. One was Caroline, and this CD version here features the wonderful The Butcher Boy, I think is an old traditional song. And the second CD features her version of El Paso by Marty Robbins. Caroline's just a good, strong, standard Kirsty MacColl sing-along song. And the next one is Perfect Day, and this is a version of the Lou Reed song, and it's a very faithful version with Evan Dando, who I think was in the Lemonheads, I think so. Yeah, it's okay, it's not bad, but it was good to see her get top 10 with the Very Best of Galore album. And then in 2000 she released this album here, Tropical Brainstorm, and this is all Latin American type music. It's really, really good fun, and 2 singles came off that. Mamba de la Luna, this is a promo copy, 12-inch, and the very witty In These Shoes, where Kirsty and her partner, well, he is actually suggesting that they do certain things together, and she would go, "What, in these shoes?" It's actually quite funny. But the album itself is really, really strong. Treachery is my favourite song off this, which again is it's a funny song. It's about her stalking a fan rather than the other way around. Celestine's beautiful, and England 2, Colombia 0 is another one that's really, really, it's actually quite witty. She did have a sense of humour, this girl, but she could be sharp as well, and she could read men like a book. So she could, and she could be quite scathing in some of her lyrics. So that there didn't do too well, but at this time Kirsty was enjoying life. She was travelling a lot to Cuba, back and forward, and she went on a holiday to Mexico with her boyfriend at the time and her sons. And on the 18th of December she was diving at the Chancanab Reef in a diving area where no watercraft was allowed, but a speedboat came in, and Kirsty noticed that the speedboat was heading towards her son, and she managed to get her son out of the way, although her son still did sustain some injuries. But Kirsty was killed instantly, which is an absolute, it's a shame. It really is such a waste to see such a talented artist just be killed through negligence of somebody driving a speedboat. There's a 3 CD anthology set which I would highly recommend for anyone that doesn't know anything about Kirsty MacColl, and it's From Croydon to Cuba. This starts off with They Don't Know, and it goes up to actually a demo of Sun on the Water, which is one of the last things she ever wrote, and it features all the singles, including the big ones like the ones I like You Still Believe in Me and Keep Your Hands Off My Baby, and it goes through an awful lot. There's over 60 tracks in this. It's absolutely magnificent, and this here triple CD has been played about 3 times over the past fortnight. It's absolutely brilliant, and it's a perfect way to get into Kirsty MacColl, so I highly recommend this. So that's my spotlight on Kirsty MacColl. You know, it is a tragedy. She passed at 42 years old, but the music's still there. That's me for now, and I hope to have another video quite soon. All the best now. Bye bye.